Hello everyone, it's Oil here again from Old Timers and Newbie Scale Modelling Group on Facebook. Now this time I'm going to have a little talk about some of the paints that I use. Because once again on the group we get asked a lot of questions, from people who are not sure what paints to start out with, or the difference between the different makers. And of course there are a lot of makers of paint out there on the market. And I don't use them all, but I do use some of the main ones. And of course the first one we'll have a look at is Humbrol. Now Humbrol have been in the market for a very long time, and they've got a very good range of paint. A lot of them are pretty basic, like matte black there, or basic red. But they're very useful. And acrylics, well, I use acrylics all the time now. I've gone away from the enamels, but acrylic paints, they're a bit safer to use. There's very little smell. There's no fumes off them, no dangerous fumes or anything. So they're good. They've got a good drying time. They dry very quickly. Now that's partly also a problem, because enamel paints will take a little while to dry and give you a little time to work with them, whereas the acrylics, some of them, and especially if you're working in warm temperatures, will dry very quickly even as you're actually brushing them on. So to counteract that, I use some of this. Now you'll pick this up in an art shop, good stuff. And what it is, basically, it's like a sort of gel, as you can see there. Now if you take a palette, and I recommend getting a couple of these, again you'll pick these up for pennies in an art shop, and take your paint, and take a brush, take your paint, put a few drops of the paint you want to use into one of the dishes, and add a small drop of this, mix it in. It will then allow you a lot more time to work with the acrylic paint. Apart from that though, it will also allow you to blend the paint. So if you were perhaps doing this sort of thing, where you've got feathered edged camel and you don't have an airbrush, you can blend the colours, blend the paints using this stuff mixed in with your paint. Of course that's an art, that takes a lot of practice, but it's worthwhile trying. So yeah, Humbrol acrylics, they're pretty good. But I also use Vallejos. Now Vallejos are a really good company. Their paints are excellent. And this is the normal model colour, again for painting with the brush. And again, I would mix a tiny little spot of this in with it. And there's an oily steel, for instance. I have quite a lot of these, which I would use for all my touching up parts, little bits, painting engines, that sort of thing. Now model colour is only one range of the Vallejo paints, because they also produce something called Model Air, and you will get the same colours of course, but the difference is that these are more or less airbrush ready. They all come with a little eyedropper, so that if you wanted to measure out into the cup on your brush, your airbrush, you can count the drops into that and you know exactly how much you're using. So Model Air, now it's a lot thinner than this obviously, but you can use it with a paintbrush as well. It would just possibly take more coats to cover whatever it is you're doing. So the Model Air is another one. And Vallejo also do something called Game Colour, and this is actually for more like the Games Workshop stuff, but I like them and I've got a few, and basically the ones I use are the metallic colours, and these metallics are really good. I would recommend getting a few of them. So these are extremely handy to have. So that's basically the Valeos, but they have a counterpart as well called AK Interactive, and this is just another company. Their bottles are basically the same, but AK Interactive, they do a lot of good sets of colours. So for example, British Sand Yellow, that has come from a set of Middle East modern vehicles for British and American vehicles. Russian Brown, and again these are more or less airbrush ready, so pretty much the same as the Modelier there. Now mainly though for spraying I prefer to use Tamiyas. Now Tamiya paints come with their own retarder already mixed in, which simply means that when you're spraying, the paint won't set in the air and turn to dust before it hits the kit. It's got a lot longer to use it, and you can spray from a bit of a distance and you're not going to get that horrible mottled effect. It'll come out nice and smooth. It does have a strange smell to it, of course. It's got a sort of sweet smell, very unique smell to it. But as with all paints, you must make sure that you stir these really well before you use them. This stuff is almost airbrush ready. In some cases I would even use it neat, but if you were going to be wanting to be exact, you can add a few drops of this stuff which goes with this. And in fact I've actually got somewhere some Vallejo within it as well, which is up on the top of the shelf and I can't reach it, but good stuff. It's not quite so easy to paint by hand with this. It does dry extremely quickly by hand, but it's excellent for spraying. So that's the Tamiya colours. Now next, I actually have quite a few of the Citadel colours which belong to the Games Workshop collection, and again I've got these mainly for the metallics, so like gun metals and that sort of thing, but they're very good, especially for painting with by hand. And also I've got a couple of their washes here that I like to use. This Null & Oil is brilliant for working with engines and guns and stuff like that. But this stuff is extremely watery. It's not really meant to be a paint. It's a wash, but worthwhile getting a few of these and trying them out. So yeah, Citadel colours, get a few, try them out, especially the metallics. They're really good for that sort of thing. But I do have as well a few enamels, and which I do use occasionally. This one here is their Humbrals. This one is basically a track colour, which I would base coat tank tracks with. The enamels are a bit tougher and a bit more harder wearing initially, until you get varnishes on and stuff like that. But these three here are clear colours. So if you had, for example, brake lights on vehicles, visors, that sort of thing, warning lights, that sort of thing. So clear colours, and they're really good. And so yeah, I do actually still have a few enamels which I still use. Now, if you go into an art shop, you can pick these up, and as you can see, these bottles are a lot bigger. 2 fluid ounces. I can get these for £1 each in an art shop, and they're quite handy. I can use them. I've got quite a lot up there, but these are just a few samples. I can use them. This is a silver. This is a basic brown. I can use these for highlighting, to mix up for seat covers or whatever it might be, internal things, that sort of stuff. But I mean, they're handy to have, and they work pretty much the same as the Humbrals, same sort of consistency. Again, you're not thinning it with this, you're simply making it work better for you. This doesn't actually thin the paint, it keeps it the same consistency. So that's these ones, and you know, have a look at these, try them out, they're worthwhile having. Excuse me. But here is a thing which I was given by my lovely woman. Gave me these a few weeks ago, which I've only just tried one out, and I was talking about clear colours here earlier on. Well, these apparently are used by the people who make stained glass windows, and I had a look at one of them earlier on, and it's quite thick. It's almost like a gel, yet when you apply it, and I tried a bit on the end of a screw, as you can see, it came up a lovely orange, and it's dry already. That was only an hour ago. But I've got all sorts. I've got greens and blues, and she got them from a friend of hers, and I'm going to give them a try. And they're in quite a big bottle, so they seem to be some sort of Italian make, I'm not sure. But I've got greens and purples and blues, oranges and browns, reds, all sorts. So I'm going to give these a try. They're going to look as if they'll last a long time. So if you can get your hands with stuff like that, give it a try. It doesn't do any harm. But I would always advise, if you get something new like that, take a piece of sprue, try it out on the bit of sprue first to see the effect, to see what it looks like, see how it comes up. It will also give you some idea of drying time before you apply something new like this straight onto a kit. Always test things out, have a look to see what they do, especially drying times. That's always something I do. So more or less that's it, apart from my brushes, and these are my brushes. They're a motley crew, a mixture of everything really. I've got some big artist brushes here, mainly used for sort of diorama work, right down to a little 000 fine artist brush, and everything else in between. Some of them, like these ones here, these are cheap brushes, but I would use these for applying washes, for example, or for painting dioramas. A nice big flat brush again for, well, maybe applying washes, but also maybe for just hand painting interiors or that sort of thing, if I wasn't going to airbrush it. So paint brushes, this one here, this horrible looking thing, is actually a glue brush, by the way. But look after your brushes, because they are going to have to last you quite a while. These are all, they've all been used, but keep them in their protective things if you can. And of course, using acrylics, the one good thing about using acrylics is they're water soluble. You clean your brushes in water. Now, I got this thing in an art shop for, I think it was £1. It's adjustable, you can actually make it different heights. I like it at this height, but the good thing about it is you can't knock it over. It's hard to spill the water, and it can sit on the bench over there quite happily. It's got a little handle, you can pick it up if need be, and it's great for cleaning the brushes in. Just change your water every now and again, don't leave it sitting dirty. And that's basically that. I think that's us all, apart from this one other thing I have here. This, if you're going to be spraying something like the fawn at the back there, this is a Vallejo's acrylic polyurethane surface primer. Get some of this stuff, it is excellent. You would need some of that on the kit after you've cleaned it up. Basically let it set, because this will give the paint a good proper surface to adhere to. Because one thing about acrylics, if you put acrylic straight onto big flat plastic surfaces, it can rub off. If you've got some of this on, this will act as a proper primer, which is exactly what it's for. The paint will bond to it much better. So get some of that as well. And by the way, a big bottle like this will last a good long time, even building big kits. So there we go, that's more or less the paints I use. So if you've watched the video, once again subscribe to the channel and we shall see you later.